Now to our top story, breaking news overnight. Pope Francis has died. The Vatican announced this morning that the pontiff passed away overnight, just hours after celebrating Easter. This now leads to the question, what comes next for the Catholic Church?
Yeah, Doug Luziader joining us live from Washington this morning. And Doug, this news this morning coming as kind of a surprise to people since the Pope just celebrated Mass on Easter Sunday. What is all the latest you can tell us this morning as this is all developing?
Well, we say, these things are always a little bit of a surprise, I guess, but it's still perhaps not too shocking given the kinds of health issues that the Pope had been facing. He had been for an extended hospitalization, dealing with issues following bronchitis and a bout of double pneumonia. He was clearly not doing all that well, although there were some signs that perhaps he was improving. And I think the fact that he was able to celebrate Easter yesterday to a limited degree, but nevertheless he was in public doing this, I think led people to believe that maybe he would recover here. And then we saw this news coming out of the Vatican overnight that, in fact, he had passed away. So now begins this process where there will be a mourning period for Pope Francis, eventually followed by his funeral, and then in a couple of weeks-ish, they will begin the process of selecting a new pope, and that involves eligible cardinals traveling in to Rome from around the globe and going through this perhaps round after round. Sometimes it takes a while, where they vote and decide who is going to lead the church next and whether this direction will follow kind of the reformist vision that Pope Francis had, or whether, in fact, will we see a return to kind of a strict kind of approach to Catholic doctrine. We don't know. That's something for the cardinals to decide, and that is a whole process that can take a while.
Sure. Yeah, and Doug, a lot of world leaders we're hearing today here in the U.S., hearing from a lot of people who talk about when the Pope came to the U.S., about getting to meet him. What are you hearing this morning when it comes to these world leaders and the legacy that Pope Francis is leaving behind?
Well, we've heard from Vice President J.D. Vance, for instance, a very, grieving on X this morning. When we saw yesterday, Vance met with the Pope. Obviously, the two don't always see eye to eye, particularly when it comes to issues like immigration. But they had a very cordial meeting yesterday. And, it's always kind of an interesting line that any Pope follows in terms of getting involved in day-to-day politics. This was, by papal standards, a very progressive Pope. And at times he did kind of butt heads with the Trump administration. But again, a very warm meeting yesterday between Vice President J.D. Vance and Pope Francis shortly before the Pope passed away.
Yeah, all breaking overnight here. Doug Luziader live for us in Washington. We'll continue tracking all the developments coming out of the Vatican. Thank you, Doug.